All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today here at noon. We are live here in Minnesota, and welcome to Shop Talk. So this show, Shop Talk, is for those people that have dedicated their livelihood to the craft of manufacturing. And the reason is because those people understand that manufacturing, from my perspective, is the hardest job in the world. And when I say that, customers always, the reason why that is because customers want parts faster at lower prices. Operators are in some cases unreliable. They don't always show up, or they leave for another dollar. Materials, the inventory prices are kind of go up and up and up. Wages go up. Equipment can fail. There's reworks that can kill the productivity. The sales can be, volatile or unpredictable. The schedule on a day-to-day, shift-to-shift basis is always dynamic and changing. And this causes a lot of pressure if you're running or leading or working in a manufacturing shop from all angles. And in many cases, the margin, because of many dimensions, can get squeezed. And so life in a shop it's chaotic. It's a daily firefighting of problems. And this show, Shop Talk, is built to bring on people who love to fight the fire and conquer the fire. So welcome, everybody. My name is Dean Halonen. I'm a co-founder and CRO of Steelhead Technologies. And today I'm excited to have on a friend of mine, Ken Hannem. I call him the king of costing, Ken Hannem, out of D&K Powder Coating in Mankato, Minnesota. And today in this episode, we'll dive into Ken, his background, his perspective on all things manufacturing and job costing. Truly, truly impressed by what Ken has done. I've talked to thousands of people in the manufacturing space, and I don't know anybody that is sharper around margins than Ken. So Ken, thanks for joining us today. Welcome to have you here, and welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Dean, for asking.
Yeah. So Ken, just to kick it off and give us a feeling of where you're coming from into the job shop space, what is your manufacturing background before coming to D&K Powder Coating?
Position I held before this was logistics and production planning manager for a Lumacraft boat. And I was there for 20 years. It started out being inside sales, and it kind of morphed through time. Once we had leadership in place that wanted to solve the problems, we were able to then obviously work on the problems, and we conquered them. And for an example, the goal has always been to be 3 weeks out on the load schedule. And by the time I was done, it was out 12 weeks on the load schedule. And we shipped every single boat we made every day. And it was exciting.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, to be honest.
And this is a Lumacraft and the boat you said your lead time went from what to what?
Well, the people there's a load schedule, and you basically want to have a plan on what loads are being delivered when. And the problem we had was that production was just a crapshoot. Nothing was really planned for what they were trying to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was shooting from the hips and trying to do the best you can. And then finally, leadership changed, and they just said, okay, Ken, you know the problems. Tell us what we need to do to fix them. And they actually backed up what I suggested to do, and it worked.
Nice.
And that's what made it fun.
And yeah, it is fun. It's always satisfying. What was the main problem, and what was the solution? And then what was the load time difference?
Well, the load time, they made 3 or 4 different models per week, and they made 60 pieces of each one. And then I had to, after it was said and done, then it's planning deliveries. And didn't always have dealers that ordered those certain boats. So you had multiple stops. Found that if you can get down to one stop per load, it's the most efficient and better for everybody. You can get more boats delivered if you're doing one stop loads rather than 3 to 5. And the costs of the loads were cheap. So what I suggested was we just produce 2 loads. So we would build 5 different models of boats, and then I would know each dealer had what of those 5 boats, and then their boats would come off the line at the same time. And then I knew that the next day we could load them. So we were building to loads rather than loading from production. And like I said, we went from 3 weeks out on the load schedule to 12. And the only reason why it was 12 and not more than that was because our lead time for consoles and windshields was 12 weeks. So I was limited to that. But being 12 weeks out, I literally could tell somebody who ordered a boat today when their boat was going to be delivered to the dealer.
Wow.
And within
Right.
24 hours of seeing that order, I could do that. And it was a lot. It was, like I said, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I'd say Alumacraft is a pretty standard manufacturing operation. How does that compare to the life at D&K Powder Coating? Obviously, that's a little more unpredictable, or you're
A
not
lot.
making the same product a lot more. Can you explain, going from an OEM into a job shop and what the main differences are there?
Well, when you work in that environment, you had a 12-week plan for models and for parts, and so you knew what had to be delivered when. Here, I am the last one to know usually when there's a project showing up. I will have people come in without any phone calls and show up and drop off a $20,000 job. And they don't even bat an eyelash at it. They just say, oh, just take care of it. And I had no idea. So we stock a lot of powder. We have to be on top of it and really stay on top of our trends and what our customers want to do because it's a surprise. It's nothing I would do. If I was building a $300,000 project, I would be in touch with everybody involved and to make sure everyone's on the same page. And you don't see that here. And I'm floored in many ways by the way they just drop stuff off and leave.
And then say, hey, please get it done by Friday type of thing. Yeah,
Luckily we get a lot of just do as fast as you can
perfect. So that's
because
the main thing.
we always have a reputation of getting turns done quickly. So
Yeah, I was going to say that. So the growth, so Steelhead has been serving D&K powder for the last 3, 4 years, and the growth has been one of our highest or fastest growing customers. What would you say, I guess the main services D&K powder provides are, and then also what makes the D&K powder coating service so special? Because clearly it's special based on the transformative growth we've seen. There's some sort of sauce down there in Mankato.
well, it helps having manufacturing local.
Mm.
And we are part of the supply chain on some of it. Manufacturers will build frames and bases, and they get them powder. They send them to us to get powder coated, and then we deliver it to the manufacturer
Oh,
here in town. So being part of that supply chain has really helped out quite a bit. The other aspect of it is we don't do anything but powder coat. We do blasting, we do burn off, but we don't build anything, so we're not selling extra capacity. A lot of powder coaters out there manufacture their own things and they sell their excess capacity. Well, what's all we do is powder coat. So nobody's parts are waiting for our stuff to get through. Everyone's parts are a priority.
mm-hmm.
And we don't have to advertise. That's the one thing that I went to school, it was advertise, advertise, advertise. Not here. Here it's all word of mouth. I can't tell you how many phone calls I fielded where I was told by this company that you guys are the best and we need stuff, we need help bad.
Mm,
And it we back up everything that people say about us, we back it up. And um, again, it's a lot of fun when you have leadership, the ownership of this company. Um, he is driven with customer service as I am.
yeah.
And when I interviewed for this job and I found out that I can use my morals, and he said the phrase of, I've eliminated every reason for you to say no to a customer. So if there's a size constraint, if there's any kind of weird constraint, we'll overcome it. And that makes sales easy.
Interesting. So essentially your sales and your marketing is your customer service and your quality, said another way.
Yep, it is. Um, we have companies now that are basically saying, um, we like the frames you make, but we don't like who you're powder coating with. Take them to D&K.
Oh, wow.
And I've right now I've got 3 customers that are delivering frames in the next week that have all been told by them by their customer they have to bring it here
Hmm.
because we already know how to do it right, and we're basically certified by them because they're obviously endorsing us.
Yeah. Which is great for sales and the growth. So would you say um, over the last 3, 4 years, the growth I've seen has been pretty strong. And we don't need to comment specifically on the actual numbers, but you see new buildings going out back, and it's and the rising tide lifts everybody up, as I like to say. But what has been from your perspective, Ken, the primary driver of that growth? Is it the service and the quality, or is there anything else that's helping? I mean, near double the company.
Um, we basically our motto or our mission statement is to do a top quality job for a fair price at a quick turn,
Mm,
and we're doing. Um, I can't tell you how many people I talked to, and they contacted other powder coaters, and they're told it's going to be 3, 4 weeks before their stuff can be done. And I turn around and say, well, we can do it in less than a week.
wow.
And now we're not the Walmart of the powder coat world. We're not the cheapest, but when you want quality and you need quick turns, we do it for a fair price. And with Steelhead, we now know what makes money and what does not.
Yeah.
Um, when I first started here, um, it was November of 22, and I asked the owner. I said, "How do I know what I'm quoting is making us any money?" And he looks at me and he goes, "We really don't."
Mm,
I was taken back a little bit. I said, "But you've grown substantially every year since 2013. How are you doing this?" And he just said, "We just work off the P&L, and we have to just we're just trying to be smart." And then here, January after that, you come walking in through the door and pitch the owner about this ERP system for powder coating. And I saw the light. I saw the light instantly. That's what we needed. And I had already been bugging the owner about stuff like that, doing time studies or whatever to try to figure out what's making money and not. So when you came in, he was already trying to think of a way to get this accomplished. So your timing couldn't have been any better.
yeah.
And then of course, once it was decided to go forward, the cooperation with you and the staff is by far what's allowed everything to happen the way it did.
Yeah. And so I appreciate, yeah, the timing was just meant to be, it feels like. And the partnership's been amazing the last 4 years. Truly phenomenal people down there in Mankato. the maybe it's at the highest level, Ken, if you had to explain, imagine you had to explain job costing to a first grader or, someone that just graduated high school and they're considering, uh, or maybe they're a new hire, a new employee at D&K. How would you explain like this is job costing in its most basic form, and why is it so important to a company to have this locked in on every single order?
If you want to make money, if you want to grow, if you want to stay solvent, have reward good employees with good pay and good benefits, you need to know if you're making money. And you need to know when you're not going to make money. And you need to know all of that up front. This system allows you to do that. But then on top of it, you use it to figure out where you're losing. Yeah, you find out what's doing well, and then you find out what's not going well, and then you need to eliminate that. And once you eliminate that and then grow your better business, everybody will be happier.
Yeah. And on the eliminate that side of things is say you have a job that is losing money. Is it always just crank up the price, or is there sometimes other things that you have to do? And maybe could you give a story of like, some scenarios that you've
Well,
come across?
I had a customer when I took over, I got a block of customers and some are very small. And one particular one, um, once we were up on Steelhead, I noticed that we were negative margin on, and he was producing 40 to 60 pieces at, we would do in a month, but he would only deliver like 5 at a time. And once we established, I communicated to him that we want him to prosper. We want him to be successful. This is what I suggest. I work like a consultant for say, and say, instead of delivering 5 pieces, deliver 20. You deliver 20 at a time. And then I would say, I want to check the margins. And we got it to be, okay, we ran 20. We can now, let's shoot for this price. And he agreed that that price was fair. And then when we ran it and I saw that we were close, now it's time to turn inside and look, can we be more efficient? Can we do something better to, to have less time involved in this so we can be more profitable? So a lot of it's not just jacking up the price, it's also turning and looking in the mirror and saying, can we do this better?
Mm,
And that's how we've really done a lot of things, is doing repeat business, but then getting better. Not sitting back and saying, oh yeah, we've run this part 1,000 times, we know what we're doing. No, we're always looking for something better. We're always looking to do something different.
mm,
We can always improve. And you listen to your employees. That's the other thing. You listen to them. They have ideas. They understand what we're trying to do. They're vested. We have a profit sharing program. They understand that they have a voice and they have a part in this. And once you listen to everybody, things start going better. And then we talk about the bad. And once you establish you're as much efficient as you can be, and say this customer is still not happy and they're putting a lot of stress on you, it's time to say, well, we obviously can't make you happy. You're going to have to find a different powder coater. I mean, it's just one of the things you have to do, because if we're never going to make them happy and we're constantly doing rework, we become less efficient, we become unprofitable, and their work is behind their schedule, and we don't need that reputation out there. And then what I do is, then the customers who do appreciate us, who do talk and are open and willing to really work as a team, I now tell them we now have extra capacity. So what we've done is I have all the difficult customers that stress out people and cost us money, I've now replaced with more of our good customers. And they appreciate the extra capacity. And how do they do that? By bringing more stuff. And then by telling other people about how wonderful we are. Because if they're a wonderful customer, they have wonderful friends. They have wonderful contacts within the industry. And
Yeah.
you just build on that.
So just to restate this, just to clarify it in my head. So say you run a bad job, your options are A, just to try to simplify it, A, go back to the customer and say, hey, we need to bump up our volumes of part numbers because if you're sending us 5 parts, we'll have to either crank up the price or you have to send us more parts to justify the setup costs and like the transactional costs of a job. B, the second option is try to find a way to get more efficient with it as is. Or C, if A and B fail, we have to go back to the customer and have an honest conversation about pricing, right? Like, hey, it's just the price has to go up. And then if you're saying they're a bad customer, like they're just not able to pay you your target margin, then you should have no problems just flushing them and just trusting that good customers do exist that are willing to pay you the right price. And if you flood your portfolio with good customers, a lot of good things happen. You have a great reputation. You can afford to do great quality. You can have capacity for good lead times, and it creates like a positive flywheel inside of the business. Is that correct, Ken?
That's a good way of putting it. A lot of my customers are friends. They have become my friends because they trust me that I care about them. And they understand we're going to make a dime because we need to stay in business for them and for anybody else.
Mhm.
There's no sugarcoating it. And when I'm very honest, I see enough of a trend here. And again, this is where Steelhead really comes in. I've established a trend, or the part has established a trend that we need to make a decision if we're going to run it or change the price, or on top of it, be more efficient. We see opportunities.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of that. We look inside too. We look at ourselves besides just jacking up the price.
Mhm.
We look at what we can do better for the customer, and then everything just kind of fits together.
Yeah. And then on the customer relation side of things, as far as like, say you do have to have a tough conversation, or, at some point, wages are going up, powder's going up, materials are going up, right? Everything's rising. And there's going to have to be some conversations with customers saying, hey, the price is not, no, yesterday's price is not today's price. And I mean, historically, I think a lot of people do like a blanket price increase, right? Across the board, everything's going up 10 points, 10%, right? I've seen people do that before. Is that what you like to do, Ken? Or how do you handle because you want to have trust and you want them to like you and continue sending parts, but you also got to hit your target margin. So how do you handle the customer conversation with the job costing data?
Well, I have a large customer that is worldwide, uh,
Mm,
multi-billion dollar industry.
mm,
And the establishment of a agreement that, you know, we have a trend. They say every quarter I can supply them a list of parts that I want to change price on. And my own personal thing is if I'm going to raise three, I want to lower three.
mm. You're,
Um,
you're lowering prices for customers?
yes,
Okay.
because we don't need to gouge.
Mm,
We want to have a fair price for the fair work we do. And some mentalities out there are have a loss leader, negative margins, and then you have one that's like triple what you set out for a goal, and you can settle for the middle. In this situation with this customer, every single order is one part. So I'm able to establish a trend per part, and they allow me to give me an opportunity to change a price every quarter. So I'm able to come up and say, yeah, I would like these 6 changed up, whatever that amount is. And then I have these maybe 3 or 4 I want to lower because they're consistently too high. Now that customer knows, they know that when I need to change, it's not because I just want to gouge. It's because I care about being fair at all times.
Hmm.
And again, being able to use your morals
Yeah.
is liberating.
Yeah. And also it stabilizes the business. And when I say that, I mean, I've seen firsthand where this is just an example, but say we have a part at 50% net margin, right? And we have another part at maybe 3%. So this one's a little high, a little rich, and this one is very, very low, right? And then over time, say days, weeks, months, orders and orders go by, they eventually people do price shop something. They're like, hey, it looks feels a little high here. Then you might lose all this high margin work to a competitor, and you're
Yep.
stuck with this rock bottom work forever, right?
Yes.
And this is backing up your business. You have a long backlog of work, but you're not making money. You can't raise your wages. You can't really serve properly your customers, and actually can really crush the business. So
Yeah.
what
Oh,
Ken,
absolutely. Absolutely. And it really comes down to being fair all the time.
mhm,
And a majority of my customers, they don't shop anymore.
mm,
They don't shop anymore. After 4 years, I've proven that I am fair and I care about them because if they're staying in business, that allows us to stay in business and we work together. We when their parts arrive, we're looking as if there's missing welds or if there's something wrong with it. I can't tell you how many times a painter has got my attention because they're painting all the same part and they notice this one's missing a weld.
mhm,
Um, we we always are looking out for our customer at every level within this operation.
mhm,
And when you do that, you you build a great deal of trust. And
mhm.
the employees are very important. Every
Yeah.
level, every single one.
Yeah, and then so it's pretty interesting because typically most people say job costing, like we want to make sure we're hitting our target margin, and I don't hear of many companies ever lowering their prices. So it's pretty rare. I think that builds a ton of trust, but it really levels off. So say you'll have everything at your target margin, then it doesn't really matter what jobs show up. You said it's a
Exactly.
surprise. It's a surprise what
Exactly.
parts show up on a Monday, but as long as we know that everything's hitting our target margin we don't really care what parts come in. We're going to hit our numbers day after day, week after week.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. You nailed it.
that's pretty cool. And then kind of, I know I was talking to you last night, just catching up on things, and you mentioned that you inherited a customer in August, and they were maybe 50% of your target margin, and then December, vroom, in a couple months' time, you got them right back up to your target margin, which is super impressive. It clearly takes an innate talent to do that. How did
Montana.
how did you do that?
Um, their agreement, before before they became my customer was they were going to have certain quantities delivered per part. And they never lived up to that.
Mm,
So my olive branch to them was if you can't produce the quantities that we quoted at, we were, for example, if they said they were going to send us 400 pieces and they send us 30, we all know that's going to cost more to do that 30 than at that price that we're supposed to be doing hundreds at.
mhm,
I just basically sat down and said, okay, this is the price if you're going to deliver that quantity.
mhm,
I have no choice. And they understood. Well, now they're delivering the parts at their quantities and things are, and they also understand that when we get a smaller quantity, things are going to change. And they also know that we will jump through the hoop for them because if they're behind in their production, their factory doesn't run. So they will pay the expedite fees for us to get things done. We just did something for them in 24 hours.
Mm,
And I don't know how many other powder coaters out there can just whip out 24-hour work.
yeah. It's like Amazon Prime, right? People are willing to pay extra for speed.
And
Um,
I mean, to think of the cost of not being able to have the factory running, of telling everybody they have to go home because there's no parts. Um, we're able to react to that and help our customers keep their factories running. As long as the communication is open, and see, that's the other end of it. They trust that they can talk to me and to ask for things. And I honestly go to bat for them with the leadership of on the floor about what they need to be successful for them. And everybody here cares about that. I'm
yep.
not, I don't have to butt heads with anybody. Everybody's saying, okay, well, that's what it takes to make, keep their factory running. We're going. And it's it's really nice.
Yeah. If everyone's on the same page, it creates a well-oiled machine. So Ken, I have one last topic, but for the guests on the call here, if you do have any questions for Ken or myself, primarily for Ken, please put them in the chat and we'll answer them at the end of the call here. But Ken, the last topics, we covered the customer side of job costing and maybe the internal frameworks. What about the operator side? So if like imagine life before you had a great job costing system and then for the operator, and then life after you have this job costing system in place. How has that changed how the operators are? You mentioned there's like you're looking at for continuous improvements and watching the numbers. How has that changed the operators um, day-to-day life, or maybe the production side of D&K powder with this job costing data now at your fingertips?
They know, everyone on the floor knows that if I see an irregular time percentage, um, if I see that hanging is 47% of the invoice, that's a red flag. Why is that? And
Mm,
so I have the director of operations is very open to going and finding out why is this? And people know that there will be follow-up. So there is accountability,
mm,
and everybody from the top down says you do your punches, you follow Steelhead, you do it the right way, or or else there's going to be consequences. And everyone knows here, everyone, night shift, everyone knows they've got to do their punches accurately and correctly. And they just know it's we've built a lot of understanding of what the expectations are. And
mhm.
it's been top down, and I can't argue about any of our success because it shows.
Yeah. And was there pushback in the early side from the operators to tracking all the time, or and then if so, how was that
They're
handled
human.
or mitigated?
They're human. Um, if you don't think there's going to be follow-up, you test it once in a while. Um, things get a little sloppy. Well, then as soon as it gets sloppy, um, I see it, and then their boss will see it, and then they're asked about it. It doesn't have to be cutthroat, but just asking them what happened here. Now they're in it that, oh, people are looking at numbers. Before I really dove into this, it really was, well, no one's looking at the numbers, so what does it matter? Well, now they know we look at the numbers. Every single time, every single one of my orders, I'm looking at them before they leave here. So, and I also look at them while they're still in on the floor
Why do you do that?
because it's easier to fix it. Um,
Live.
yeah, it is. As soon as one is in my head, anything under anything well over 40% of the bill is a red flag to why. I mean, That's a high percentage. And everybody knows that we will be following up and
Mhm.
do it every day.
Wow, just consistent, consistent, consistent. Um,
Yeah, you don't just blow it off because guess what? When you do blow it off, your margins start to fall.
mm, yeah,
They do.
I would agree. I heard margins are like gravity, and if you don't watch them, they fall to zero.
They
Um,
sloppy.
Now, Ken, so say something is a high, it's higher than expected, right? And you walk out to the shop floor, maybe you go to the director of operations or the operator. What percent of the time is it like, hey, we need to find a better way to do this operation if it's hanging or packaging or maybe blasting? And then what percent of the times is like, well, we just got to raise prices because this operator is doing it as good as they can and there's no possible way to.
That's what you do. If as long as you've already looked at yourself and said we're as efficient as we can be, then it's a time to talk about raising the price.
Mhm.
And then the customer has to make the decision if they feel there's value to it.
Yeah.
Yes, they know they're in business too. They know they have to make a profit on what they're doing. Um, to me, it's just good communication with the customer up front. You know, um, I can't tell you how many times I've been told that the parts are going to be coming in ready for wash, and they're coming caked with rust. That changes everything. We have to sit down and have another discussion about what's needed here to get you this part to where it needs to be for your customer. And
Mhm.
and we hash it out. And it's
Yeah.
just good communication upfront, honest, nothing mean,
Mhm.
nothing nasty.
Yeah. But what do you say it's about? So say there's a bad job or a bad part. What do you say it's about 50-50 as far as like we have to raise prices or we can fix it internally with just maybe a better effort or better operations? Is that roughly true?
Yeah. Yeah. There are some, let's see if it helps if you got repeat. If you got
Mhm.
the same part over and over and over again in large batches, it's easier to get better at it quicker.
Yeah.
Um, when it's something that doesn't come very often, um, luckily we retain our employees. We retain a lot of our employees. We don't have a big turnover in a lot of areas. So
Mhm.
they all remember parts and they've learned their experiences. With Steelhead, we're able to put pictures in with the part number. So if they tell me, hey, it would really be handy if you did this in Steelhead, so we can pull it up and see that, I do it in a heartbeat. Because if they're telling me that it's a benefit, I'm doing it.
Everybody wins, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So sometimes it can be easy to forget what the business is. There's like value add services and then there's overhead, right? And the faster we can move parts through the plant, I mean that is like that's what the whole company exists to do. So even though leadership is always oftentimes looked up, at the highest with held at the highest regard, really leadership is here to serve the operator smoother, faster, leads to the revenue growth that most
I mean,
people are chasing.
it starts by hiring the right people with the right mentalities, and then backing up everything so they feel like they do get listened to.
Yeah. So
And
Ken, maybe at the highest level, just to kind of wrap up here, I know we're coming up on time. What would you say from the 10,000 foot view? How has job costing impacted yourself and D&K Powder at the highest level? Say, pre Steelhead or pre-job costing to today, what's been like the macro or like the high level impacts to the company?
um, you see, without it, I don't know what the numbers. See, when we first started with you got to come up with the cost per zone. You spend a lot of time tweaking that to get that dialed in. And then the longer between the tweaks, the better you see how everything is working. We haven't had a change in our charge almost in a year. And right now I can compare margins from today to last July, for example, on a part because nothing has changed for costing. But it took a while to get there. And you have to be patient. You have to understand that. And once you get it dialed in though, it's it's wonderful because I would say safely you you can increase certain parts 30% in margins just by being aware of efficiencies that you can improve on yourself and then working with the customer when that's been exhausted.
Hmm.
So our margins have increased in dramatically, but they're also consistent and they're correct.
Yep.
And that's the
Uh,
key.
and that's the key. Obviously, the companies exist to deliver. It's not if you're making no money or losing money, well, the company's going to go defunct or bankrupt. So margin is critical to maintain the lifeblood of the company. So Ken, that's great. And the last question I have for you, Ken, is say somebody is a brand new hire, they just started at D&K or they just started their manufacturing career and they're saying, hey, someday I want to be a leader. Maybe I want to own a job shop, or maybe I want to, get to a leadership position here. What's your advice to someone who wants to, climb the ranks of a manufacturing company?
Know your role. Know what you enjoy. Um, I'm a detail person. I get into the little details. Ownership usually is big picture. They have a big picture, and then I worry about the details to get the big picture done. I've always been that way. Um, and I think that's my niche is that I do the details. But everyone has a role. There's big picture people and there's small picture people, detail people. And when people try to do the opposite role than they are comfortable with, you can have conflicts. So finding out what you like to do in the roles that exist out there. And then, so if you say, for example, you're going to own a shop, but you're a detail person, then you hire someone to worry about the big picture. That's your you have to then bring in somebody who is big picture. If you're
Mhm.
a big picture type person, then you make sure you hire someone who's got details, does the small stuff, and then you have everything covered.
Perfect. And kind of looks like we have one question in the chat here from Lisa. She's asking, besides the part images, is there any specific features that your operators appreciate about Steelhead?
They like the fact that they like the fact that they can see the hangers, for example. They like to know, hey, are we getting, we hang this part all the time. Are we getting faster at it? What is our trend? And you can actually go and tell them, this is what you've been doing. And you can even make a little report and show them how they're doing.
Oh, wow.
And there's quite a few people who like knowing how they're doing. And they should know, they should care. And the fact that they do is very rewarding
Wow.
and
So
a
you're,
lot of fun.
yeah, that's amazing. So you're giving the operator feedback based on their statistics, like any sport would, right? Like, hey, you had a
Mhm.
great game or a great day or a great shift.
It's part of their review.
Oh, really?
It's part of their review, how they do with their punch, their productivity. Are they punched in um, out of their 40-hour work week? Are they punched in for whatever the goal is set? I believe ours is like over 37 hours. If they're only punching to work for 26, that's not efficient. What are they doing? Um,
Yeah.
so we reward those who maintain or hire the initial 37 hours, for example.
Wow.
And people get paid based on their performance.
Just like any sports team. That's amazing.
Mhm.
Or any sales team. All right. Well, thanks, Ken, for being so gracious with your time. I know we're on the call 2 minutes early, and so like the job shop life is busy, and so thank you so much for spending 45 minutes here with us. If anyone enjoyed today's conversation, you can share this episode. I think it'll be posted on anywhere where you get your podcasts, like Spotify. And then if you do have any parts that need powder coating, please reach out to ken.hannem at dnkpowdercoating.com. They'll take care of you inside of 5 calendar days. And then if you're curious about job costing data, or want to see how Steelhead can help in that regard, go to gosteelhead.com to learn more. But thanks again, everybody, for listening, and we'll catch you on next time on our next episode of Shop Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.